whatever room that you step into, you belong there. You have the right to be there. They may not think that, but you have to believe that. And when you do, you show up in that way.
Hey, I'm Tine, your pivot and pay strategist. I help Black women double their income by leveraging their existing skills. I am all about getting Black women paid, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. Today, we have a guest episode, and I am so excited to bring on our guest today. We are going to be talking bias and microaggressions specifically as Black women in STEM. We are going to talk about the Give a Damn meter and what executive presence looks like for us. But first, I'd love to introduce our guest. Melanie Myles is a mechanical engineer, executive leader, and the founder of Arctic Butterfly Coaching and Consulting. By day, she oversees the operations of the 1,200-mile Trans-Alaska Pipeline. By purpose, she's a certified executive coach on a mission to help Black women in STEM lead with confidence, build executive presence without selling their souls, and protect their peace and their paychecks. Her GRACE coaching framework, Give a Damn meter philosophy, and the System Circle private community have helped women navigate bias, get promoted, and build careers that feel as good as they look on paper. So without further ado, let's get right into it and welcome Miss Melanie Myles. All right, welcome, Melanie. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. I love the work you do. And, I think particularly Black women in STEM need resources for building out their leadership. And so I'm so thrilled for the work you do. And I'm really glad you're here to share some of your insights with us.
Yeah. Thanks for
Um,
having me. Feeling is mutual.
Wonderful. So I always like to start with kind of, your story, like what led you to engineering and then eventually into leadership and coaching.
Right. Yes. So the Melanie Myles origin story. Okay. Well, so engineering, I would say that definitely always had an aptitude for math and sciences.
Hmm.
But the curious thing is that I never really thought of engineering as a career choice. And I never thought about it because I didn't see it. It
Mm,
wasn't around me. I didn't see other people doing it. So I really didn't have any knowledge of it.
sure.
And but what happened was I went to college and I had to declare my major. It had been 2 years and I hadn't declared a major yet. I was stressing out about it, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I went to the career counselor and she gave me this assessment test. And she said, well, you're really strong in these areas, math, sciences, I've always excelled at those.
Yeah.
And she then, though, asked me, what do you like to do in your free time? What brings you joy? What makes you happy?
Hmm.
And what told her was, I like to take things apart, figure out how they work, and put them back together,
Mm.
which to my mother's dismay was what I would always do. So I would find, and I tried to, just keep it to little things that wouldn't really be missed if I couldn't figure out how to put them back together. But every calculator in the house was taken apart. I then migrated to the thermostats on the wall.
Oh,
And I would say almost everything got put back together and functioning. Didn't just look right, it actually functioned
okay.
properly. And so I told this story to my career counselor at the time, and she's like, you sound like an engineer.
Mm.
And at the time, I was at a liberal arts college, and they really didn't have a strong engineering program.
Sure.
So that was kind of like, okay, well, how am I gonna do that? And um, and I was on the West Coast, and so I decided to, move to Washington, DC. So I had a sister that was living
Wow.
there, and, went to Howard. So I was a transfer student, got my mechanical engineering degree from Howard. Best decision I ever made, or one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Mm.
And, a little fun fact too is that my mother had told me before I went to college that I should be an engineer, but I'm like, again, I didn't know anything about it, didn't, and then she was my mother. What did she know? And as moms, we now know that we know everything, right?
Right.
Um, but it was very kind of one of those full circle moments with where my mother had said something. She had kind of planted that seed, but I didn't trust
Mhm.
her her knowledge of me and of the
Yeah.
world, and
Well, and you
and it,
you
it
didn't
needed to be
see it.
validated. I got a
Yeah.
little validation from the career counselor, and so that's how I kind of, I won't say stumbled into it, because I think I was always built. I was built to be an engineer,
Mm.
and so that's how I got into mechanical engineering and haven't looked back since.
Wow. Well, shout out to your mother. I bless the poor mothers of baby engineers.
I know, right?
Oh, I love it.
I've
And
got 3 of them
yeah.
now,
Oh,
so
wow. So that's the payback. It's
and it's
coming
paying
full
back,
circle.
yeah, especially with my little one. She is the tinkerer. Yeah, she's in the garage with all my tools, taking stuff apart. Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I love that. I love your story, and you're right, it sounds like engineering has been in your blood since, since you could move those little fingers.
yeah.
And so I wonder, was there a specific moment when you realized, once you were into engineering and you were doing that work, that your role needed to be more than just the technical aspect of things?
Definitely. So I don't know if there was moments, but I also, as I started, in my career, I also had this knowledge desire to want to know the why and the
Mhm.
bigger picture and the connectedness of things
Yeah.
and that system kind of higher level view. So I wasn't necessarily, I mean, I enjoyed what I do. I enjoy being an engineer. I definitely enjoy the tinkering part. But I also wanted to understand how all of that, or what I was doing specifically, fit in with the bigger picture and
Yeah.
what the kind of higher level goals of the company, the organization were. And so I wanted to be in a place where I could get that knowledge and information, but also influence it. And
Mm,
so that stepped me into wanting to be in more leadership roles.
yeah.
And so that kind of was the transition where I started doing, mechanical engineering things, then went into more project management, which kind of definitely builds in that, not just doing the equipment piece or designing the piece of equipment, but implementing that in that whole project life cycle.
Yeah.
And then from there, it kind of stepped into more leadership, traditional kind of leadership roles where I'm actually managing direct reports and doing
Sure.
performance reviews and hiring and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when you describe it, it sounds like such a natural progression, but we know that as Black women in STEM fields, right, there's very few of us. We're constantly navigating bias, microaggressions, and I imagine that played a role through your process as well, as especially as a Black woman in leadership. And so I'm wondering if we can kind of back up and talk about, what I mean, we all know what microaggressions are, but like kind of get into how they have shown up in your experience.
Right. Yes. Definitely. Microaggressions, bias, from beginning to end, right? Even in college, and that there's that lack of expectation that
Mm,
people have when you walk into the room,
yeah,
right? It starts there. And different ways that it showed up in my experience is, well, definitely walking into any room, I was always assumed to be an admin or an assistant,
yep,
or getting the coffee, or I was, that was immediately the assumption.
mhm,
And and at first it was frustrating, it was irritating, it made me mad that people were making those assumptions without a word said,
Right.
and any room. And it didn't matter what role I was in, even as I got, more and more, achieved more and more in my career, no matter what role I was in, it was just walking into the room where you kind of got those preconceived notions. And I later, though, turned that into um, an opportunity, because when you're sitting there and people don't know who you are, they think you're someone who's not important. They will say things in front of you that
Yeah.
they wouldn't say otherwise.
You're like
And
undercover.
yeah, for a little bit, for that first few minutes of any
Mhm.
meeting or any interaction, there's this underestimation. And I would use that to my advantage. And I started to selfishly enjoy that light bulb moment when they realized who I was, and that I was not the admin, but I was actually the project manager, the lead, or the director, or whatever it
Yeah.
was. And so that was pretty typical. Still
Mhm.
happens, and I think it's about reframing what that experience is, because let's face it, it's there. You
Mhm.
need to figure out how to deal with it, and you need to figure out how to use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I talk about often and that I coach, is how to deal with that, because it will happen. Those
Of
microaggressions, the
course.
biases, they're going to happen. And so what you need to do is arm yourself with, the reality that's it's going to happen. Hopefully
Mhm.
not in every situation that you're in, but it's going to, if you're a Black woman in STEM, it will happen to you. So preparing yourself, being ready,
Mhm.
understanding some truths about yourself. So, being rooted in self-awareness, confidence, your value, what you bring to the table, is critical in order to rebound from those things when they happen, or to move
Mhm.
past them, or to move through them with grace and confidence.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's out there.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because not only were you moving through those moments with grace and confidence, you were turning them on their head. Right now, you have this almost superpower, right? You get to come into a room somewhat invisible and gather information, and then you use that to your advantage. And then you also take joy in those little moments of the, oh, you're the, oh, have that moment. And I love that because it's, so much of what we experience in the world is our reactions to things that we can't control. And so
Hmm.
to even find some joy and humor in that situation instead of seething in the anger and the injustice of it, is really, that's not something everyone knows how to do yet. So I love that you've found
Right.
a way to kind of turn that around so it doesn't ruin your whole day every single time it happens.
Right. And both things can be true. You can be upset and frustrated and about the injustice of it, and
Mhm,
you can move through it.
mhm,
So, two things can be true at the same time. And I think it's about how you process and when you process those things. So you don't want to, vent in the middle of a meeting about, how you're the boss and people should respect you.
right.
You need to find safe places to do that. And if you're in a corporate environment and you're trying to um, move through, progress, then you have to be able to manage that. Which I think, as Black women, what we tend to do is we swallow it instead of managing it.
Mm,
And so finding healthy ways to manage those emotions so that they don't boil and seethe
right.
and then pop out when you don't want them to.
Mhm,
And it's not a so it's I want to make sure that I don't want people to think that you just kind of shake it off and putting rose colored glasses on. No, you save it, and you take it to someplace safe where you can manage it, process, deal with it, and strategize about it, and
mm,
then figure out how you're going to come back, tougher, stronger, and wiser with that interaction that you just had. Every moment is
yeah.
an opportunity to learn something, I think, even if they're negative ones. and to repurpose it and reuse it, and to again be strategic about
Mhm.
how we choose to move in the world and how we choose to show up.
Yeah. Spoken like a true lifelong learner, that growth mindset of, every moment is an opportunity to learn. Um, and this is kind of drawing me to the give a damn meter that
Yes.
we mentioned in your introduction. I have been dying to talk to you about this. So please tell us, what is the give a damn meter and how can it help Black women protect their peace and their paycheck?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Give a damn meter. So this it came about with what we were just talking about, right? Trying to manage your emotions, manage your energy, and manage how you show up. And so it's meant to bust a couple of myths. And one of the big ones is that you have to give as Black women. We're always told you have to give twice as much and 150% and do all this
Mhm.
extraness. And this is kind of busting that myth that that is not necessary. And we should be choosing which things we give extra to. Now, there's absolutely some situations, some things in our lives that we want to show up at 110%, and identifying what those are, and then recognizing the things that don't deserve our full attention. There are some
Mhm.
things that I don't need, that don't deserve 100% of my time or my effort or my energy. And
Mm.
so it's that idea that not everything gets 150. And I'm going to bring to it exactly what it needs for me to call that thing successful, but it doesn't always need to be 100%.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are high achievers and who, go after that A and want that 100%, that is a really hard um, mindset shift to kind of get into, where you
Mhm.
mean I'm not, don't do 100, only do 80? Yes, that is what I'm definitely saying. But I'm also saying be strategic about what those things are and then dial that meter back. Okay. It's pegged out, right? We don't want pegged out on everything.
Mhm.
Now, so choosing what you give that 100, that 10%, or whatever that extra is to, again, is about being strategic. It's about deciding what things get your energy and what things don't.
Yeah.
Right now in my life, the things that get my extra are my family, my kids. Those are where I choose to peg out.
Mm.
But my job, my work, no, they're not. On some days they get 100, but they're not getting it as standard process. And so that give a damn meter is that process of saying to yourself, okay, where am I? What's important to me? Where am I going to give extra effort and energy? And what doesn't deserve
Right.
that time? And sometimes it's a job, the current job, your current role. Sometimes it's friendships,
Mhm.
relationships that you have. You're in charge of how you spend your time and your energy. And so if we're pegging out on everything, the only outcome of that situation is burnout.
Mm.
The only outcome of that is going to be health consequences. How many stories have you heard about us, Black women, running and running and running, and then we hit this wall hard
Mhm.
and we're in the hospital
Yeah.
where we've had some kind of health scare? We don't need to get to that point. And so we need to start kind of adjusting that meter. I'm a very visual person. And so, that in my head is like, okay, I actually think of like this pegged out meter.
You're actually
And
turning the
I'm
dial.
turning it, right? You're
Yeah.
making that physical or, virtual change in your
Mhm.
mind about, and that conscious decision about, this is a thing that I have to do in my life. What level of effort does it deserve?
Mm.
What level of effort can I give it? And those things should be aligned.
Yeah.
And if it's too much, then you need to make some adjustments. And then, there's a whole, this is one of the things I work through with the ladies that I coach, is how to make those adjustments for yourself. And sometimes it's just about giving ourselves the space to
Mhm.
have those kinds of really deep conversations about where do we want to put our energy? What is it that we want to do? and how do we then make life shifts to be able to get that, make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Well, and you're right that so many of us, we don't get that wake up call until we are in a hospital bed, right? And up until that point, we do think that every obligation is a must do and a must do at 150%. And so I'm wondering, for those who don't really feel in control of, how much they can give to each of the parts of their lives, um how do you help someone recognize when their give a damn meter is out of alignment? And then, how do they go about recalibrating?
Right. So the first is recognizing. So if you're at a point where you're overwhelmed or you're frustrated or you are like stuck, you're like, I don't quite understand why I am not experiencing joy. We should be getting joy and satisfaction out of the things that we're doing. If that is not present or if it's in low supply, that should be a signal that you should be looking a little bit deeper
Mm,
into what's going on, because that should not be the case. And once doing that, again, I think reaching out and having someone that you can partner with to help you hold up a mirror to see and ask questions. I mean, this is the whole, this, right? The coaching process is helping you understand where you're at, where you want to be, and then coming up with steps, reasonable steps to help get you there.
mm,
So the first step is recognizing that you have a problem. And again, we don't want it to happen when you're falling off the cliff. We want to, these are some warning signs. So those are the things you need to be looking for. And then, getting some support I think is really key. I think particularly for Black women and Black women in STEM, because there are often so few of us in
mhm.
within our work circle, that it's hard to find those connections and find those folks who have a shared experience and who have been through what we've been through. So
Yeah,
having a support circle to help you kind of litmus test what's going on in your life, and then we it's a walkthrough of identifying self-assessments of what is it that what do you want your life to look like,
yeah,
and how far are you away from that right now. What does success and joy and getting paid, even what does that look like for you? And then coming up with some steps to get you there, and for every person that's different. But there's definitely, certain things, certain processes that I like to run people through, to kind of walk through that. And I call them baby steps, right? Because, none of us need this whole big, elephant on our backs
yeah.
to try to get another thing done. So small, meaningful steps to walk through, where is it that you want to be and where you want to go.
Oh, I love that, and I love that you are centering this around joy, right? That we should be experiencing joy from the things we do in our lives. I think so many of us don't realize that that is something we deserve and that is something we can have. And so, but it's also something that is a helpful signal to us, right? If you're not experiencing joy in your work, in your relationships, in your family life, then now it might be time to recalibrate that give a damn meter. I love that. And um, another thing you mentioned is that the value of someone holding up a mirror to you. I
Mhm.
think a lot of us are looking for the solution that we can do on our own, right? What are the steps I can do to knock it out myself? And sometimes the answer is I need someone else. I need a community. I need a friend, a therapist, a coach to talk through this stuff and reflect back to me what I'm saying so that I can see it better for myself. I think that's huge. And I think so many of us coaches, we forget to remind people of that because so much of what we're trying to help people with is, how to do it on your own. But sometimes you need a coach, right? You need
And
someone to
yeah,
help you
sometimes you
see
need
it
all of
differently.
the above.
Yeah,
it takes a village. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
And and I do wanna make sure we talk about, um, some of the, the leadership work you do.
mhm,
I'm thinking about executive presence, right? We hear so much advice about executive presence, and most of it is not made for us, right? Because what a white man can do, and show up as is perceived really differently than
right.
how we as Black women show up. And so I'm wondering, just how do you define executive presence? And then what does that look like for Black women, who want to embody that on our terms?
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about executive presence in a couple of different ways. I think in the classic sense, it's when you walk into a space, people can imagine or see you, or you show up as someone who demands and commands the room,
Mm,
and so you have that presence.
mm,
And for a lot of us, we're not. This is very interesting. So I know I am into AI stuff, and it's the thing. And when you kind of type in leadership, and you have it build you a graphic or something, the graphic that it always presents back is a white man in a
mhm.
suit. And that we know, I am not that, you are not that,
Yep.
we are not that. And so that we're never gonna be able to do that. But what we can do is give ourselves the best opportunity to show up as we are. And so being very self-aware and being confident, not arrogant, but being confident and being able to show up in a room,
Mhm.
um, as we need to be, and doing the things that are authentic and genuine to us. I was on a call the other day with an individual. He's a white man, and it was he was kind of talking to me about a role, an opportunity that he wanted,
Mhm.
me to take. And he's like, "Oh, I'm friends with the hiring manager, and we were playing poker the other night, and you know, we hang out like that." And okay, I am never gonna go and play poker with. Well, I won't say never. The chances of me going and playing poker with a room full of white men it's pretty low.
Yeah.
Me golfing, pretty low. Although I know how to do all those things, I've done them. It's not how I choose to show up, but that's not the only ways that we can do it. And so that
Mhm.
executive presence is about, at least when I interact with my clients, it's about understanding the environment that you're trying to show up in. So
Mhm.
if you're in corporate, understanding the corporate landscape and the corporate environment. That's different depending on what type of company you are.
Sure.
If you work at an ExxonMobil or a Google, what that looks like is going to be different. So there's a bit to do with appearance, right? So, you can't wear a t-shirt to ExxonMobil meeting and be okay, right?
Mhm.
That's not going to fly. Can you go to Google and wear a t-shirt and jeans to meetings? Absolutely. So you need
Mhm.
to understand the environment that you're working with, and then you need to mirror again, uh, that show up, how just from a visible standpoint. And then you need to be doing and engaging with the organization in a
Mm,
way that shows that you're comfortable being in spaces. So that might be not necessarily playing poker, but you can definitely go to the heart walk and the heart run.
mm,
And it's actually one of the best ways, low key ways, to get some visibility without taking on more work. Because I'm not about taking on more work. I'm about making the things that you're already doing more visible.
mm.
And the more visible you become, magically, that executive presence starts to come with it. And
Yes.
so there's some strategic things that you can do to increase that. But at the core and root of it is confidence. And knowing that whatever room that you step into, you belong there. You have the right to be there. They may not think that, but you have to believe that. And when you do, you show up in that way.
Mm,
And so, there's all these little things built into that executive presence. And so that's a lot of what I try to dial in for folks. And again, it's a very unique experience depending on where you are at, one, in your season of career, what you're trying to accomplish and trying to do, and then what your, culture environment that you're trying to kind of increase your presence in. Because it
Yeah.
depends. Wearing a three-piece suit to Google is probably not gonna, come off like you want it to.
Right. Right. You gotta know the room.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That's right.
And speaking of sort of the strategies around visibility and how we can make that happen, um, I heard a rumor that you I heard a rumor that you had a gift for our listeners and viewers. Can you tell us
I
about that?
absolutely do. Yes, just for your listeners. So it's called the STEM Woman's Visibility Tool Kit. And so what I found, and I think you have a shared experience, is that we want big things, but we're not quite ready to kind of step out of the shadows and into the spotlight to get them.
Mm,
Whether you're an introvert or not, I am definitely an introvert. And so but in order to kind of get to that next level, in order to be considered executive presence, ready and all those things, you need to show up. People need to see you.
mhm,
And so, like I mentioned, baby steps. So the visibility toolkit is really about taking those first little baby steps to show up on social media. So I'm not asking you to go to a big networking event and collect all the cards in the room.
mhm,
But what I am saying is that in some of these low risk spaces, social media is a low risk space, right? So, particularly on LinkedIn, because for professional people, LinkedIn is the best platform to be on. And so that the kit gives you a few very simple things to do. There's 5 things to do in LinkedIn that helps you kind of improve your visibility. Very easy things to do, only takes 5 minutes to do most of them. So you'll get a few, 5 things to do in there. And then I've also provided you with a couple of prompts. So sometimes you see something on LinkedIn and you want to respond, but you're like, okay, I don't know what the words, and you get, especially I think as engineers and technical people, words are usually not numbers is how we talk. And words is comes a little bit more, it's a struggle for us sometimes.
mhm.
And so because we struggle with the words, we're like, "Ah, I'm not gonna do it," and then we
Yeah.
miss the moment. So there's even, a couple of, I love AI, I love ChatGPT, and, use it a lot for certain things, and, so there's a few prompts in there to help you come up with the words. There's even, a couple of Canva, photos, graphics that you can borrow, that I provide in the kit. And then, of course, lastly, but there is also a 2-week free membership to my System Circle, which is a
Mm,
private community for high-powered women in STEM who want to increase their presence, their growth, and their knowledge and their joy, most importantly. And so
mm,
all of that gets in the kit, and so you'll have a link available for them, I believe, in the show notes.
yes.
So definitely check that out. Very easy, very low risk, and but you got to get out there. People need to know your brilliance, and so if you're not showing it to them, they're
Mhm.
not going to go find it. So hopefully this will help.
Oh, absolutely, and thank you so much for providing that for us. Yeah, we'll have the link in the show notes, and, I remember when you were describing this to me, one of the things you said that really stuck with me is that this resource will help you stop lurking and start leading, and I resonated with that so much. So many of us are those social media
Lurkers.
lurkers, right? We're watching everyone do things and saying like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do it." So this is a fantastic resource to help get you started and, as you said, that it's those baby steps, right? So
Right.
it's actionable, it's something you can do in a few minutes, so highly recommend.
Definitely. Got to get out there.
Mm. And Melanie, for those who are listening and wanting to learn more, wanting to get in touch with you, what's the best way for folks to reach you?
The best way is to find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at. So you can find me. My personal website is Melanie Myles. And then, or you can find my business web page there is Arctic Butterfly Coaching. Search either one of those up and you'll find me. And I think we'll also drop the links in the show notes. So
Mhm.
that is the best place to find me. So I look forward to talking with you all. Yeah, my goal is for all of us to be successful. There's enough success and joy to go around. We just need to
Absolutely.
uh, set ourselves up to be able to take the opportunity to get it.
Ah, wonderful. And you all heard it here. LinkedIn is the place to be. So find Melanie on LinkedIn. And again, we will have those links down below. Thank you again for joining us and for sharing your time and your expertise. I know that um, our listeners are going to get so much out of this episode. So thank you again for coming.
Thanks for having me, Tine. I appreciate you and I appreciate what you do for us out there.
Mm, thank you. All right. Well, that is it for today's episode, and we will see you in the next one. Hey, thanks for listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, subscribe wherever you're listening now. And if you love what you heard, be sure to leave us a review. And make sure you share this podcast with the incredible Black women in your life so we can continue getting Black women paid. All right, we'll see you in the next one.